Out on America's small farms, the tractors we grew up with weren't just machines, they were partners through long days, dusty fields, and seasons that shaped who we are. Today, we're counting down 7 classic tractors that earned their place in small farm history, and as we go back in time, each one carries a story deeper than the last. In 7th place, the Case VAC. In 7th place, we're starting with a little legend that never tried to show off, but somehow proved itself on thousands of small farms across America. The Case VAC was often called the little tractor that could, and that nickname couldn't be more fitting. At a time when many families were counting every dollar, the VAC offered something rare, a machine that was affordable, dependable, and ready to work from sunrise to sundown without asking for much in return. What made the VAC special wasn't just its size, it was the way it fit into everyday life. This tractor started easily, even on cold mornings when the frost still clung to the barn windows. It was simple to repair with basic tools, and it sipped fuel so modestly that farmers often joked it ran on determination more than gasoline. For small farms that needed a reliable hand for light plowing, garden tilling, dragging a harrow, or keeping the weeds down, the VAC was almost perfect. And then there's that sound, the soft, steady chatter of the VAC's engine. Many folks remember hearing it before the sun was fully up, echoing across the yard while the dew still shimmered on the grass. It's the kind of sound that pulls you back in time, to mornings when chores started early and ended only when the last task was done. For a lot of farmers, that little engine was the heartbeat of their daily routine. Its small frame was one of its biggest strengths. The VAC could slip through narrow barn doors, weave around old sheds and feedlots, and maneuver in tight spaces where bigger tractors simply couldn't go. On a family farm where every corner mattered, that compact agility made a real difference. And even today, when you see a VAC still running, you can tell exactly why folks trusted it for so long. What owners loved most, though, was its personality. If a machine can have one, the VAC never complained, never felt fragile, never acted its age. 70 or 80 years later, countless VACs still fire up, still pull their weight, and still remind us that durability doesn't always come from being the biggest or the strongest. Sometimes, it comes from being built with honest, straightforward purpose. The Case VAC may not steal the spotlight, but it earned its place in farm history the same way many farmers earned their living, with steady work, day after day, season after season. But if the VAC was the humble hard worker, number 6 brings more power and a reputation for smooth running that many farmers still brag about today. In 6th place, the Oliver 1650. In 6th place, we have a tractor that many farmers still talk about with a kind of quiet admiration, the Oliver 1650. If you grew up in the Midwest during the 60s, you probably remember seeing these green workhorses scattered across fields, haylots, and long gravel driveways. And the one thing folks always said about the 1650 was simple: it runs smooth as butter. The steering, the transmission, even the way the engine settled into a steady rhythm, everything about the 1650 felt refined, almost gentle. Compared to many tractors of its era, farmers who worked long days appreciated that smoothness. It meant less fatigue, better control, and a sense of ease that made the tractor feel more like an extension of your own hands than just another machine. But the 1650 wasn't just pleasant to drive, it had the right amount of power for small to mid-sized farms, strong enough to handle heavier work when needed, yet still manageable, fuel efficient, and never overwhelming. It struck a balance that made it one of the most versatile tractors Oliver ever built. For many families, this was the tractor that handled nearly everything: disking, pulling wagons, cultivating between rows, mowing pasture, or stacking hay bales before the sun dipped below the barn roof. Its build quality is another thing people still appreciate. The 1650 was solid, no unnecessary fuss, no fragile parts, nothing thrown together, just durable engineering designed to last. And of course, that iconic Oliver green stands out in memories. There was a time when the Midwest seemed painted in that shade of green, and the 1650 was a big reason why. Seeing one today can take you back instantly, back to summers buzzing with work and winters spent tuning up equipment in the shop with a single bulb hanging overhead. Owners often say the same thing: the 1650 just didn't quit, it didn't ask for much, didn't break down often, and rarely left a farmer stranded at the edge of a field. Over the decades, that reliability turned into a kind of quiet loyalty. Even now, many 1650s still fire up with confidence, proving that Oliver built something meant to outlast more than just one generation. The 1650 wasn't flashy, and it didn't need to be. It earned its place on this list the same way it earned its place on farms. across America through smooth power, steady performance, and a whole lot of trust. Now, if Oliver gave us smooth power, the next tractor was all about agility. Number 5 brought small farms a level of flexibility they'd never had before. In 5th place, the Allis-Chalmers D14. In 5th place, we've got a tractor that proved again and again that you don't have to be big to make a big impact. The Allis-Chalmers D14 was one of the most flexible utility tractors of its time, built for small farms that needed one machine to take on a long list of jobs, and for many families, this was the tractor that simply fit, not too large, not too heavy, but strong enough to get real work done without complaint. The D14 was known for being incredibly easy to drive. Its light steering and smooth controls made it a favorite on farms where both young folks and older hands shared the workload. Plenty of people still remember learning to drive their very first tractor on a D14, sitting on that bright orange seat, gripping the wheel that seemed to turn with almost no effort. It was forgiving, friendly, and dependable in a way that made you feel confident even if you weren't an experienced operator. One of the standout features of the D14 was Allis-Chalmers' snap coupler system. In a time when switching implements could eat up half the morning, the snap coupler made the process fast and surprisingly easy. Hooking up plows, blades, cultivators, and other attachments felt almost modern compared to other tractors of the same era. For busy farmers trying to make every hour count, the time savings was worth its weight in gold. But what truly set the D14 apart was its personality. This little orange tractor had a reputation for doing far more than its size suggested. Need to mow a pasture? It was ready. Need to cultivate between rows without crushing your crops? No problem. Need to drag a wagon or handle chores around the barn? The D14 tackled it all with a confidence that made farmers shake their heads and say, "I didn't think it had that in it." That ability to consistently outperform expectations is a big reason so many people still admire it today. Its compact shape was another huge advantage. The D14 could slide down narrow lanes, weave between barns, or slip into tight spots where larger tractors would get stuck. On small farms, especially those with older buildings or tight row spacing, that maneuverability made everyday chores smoother and far less frustrating. Over the years, the D14 proved itself as a real partner, reliable, practical, and always ready for whatever job came next, and it earned a spot on this list because it represents exactly what a small farm tractor should be: strong, simple, and capable well beyond its frame. And speaking of surprising strength, number 4 is a classic that punched far above its weight and helped build thousands of post-war family farms. In 4th place, the Massey-Harris 44. In 4th place, we're stepping into the post-war years with a tractor that carried more weight, both literally and symbolically, than most people realize. The Massey-Harris 44 was one of the strongest tractors you could get in a mid-sized frame, and it earned its reputation across thousands of farms from Canada down through the American Midwest. For many families, this machine became a sign that better days were finally arriving. The heart of the 44 was its rugged Continental engine. It had a warm, familiar tone, one of those steady rhythms you could hear from across the yard and instantly know someone was getting work done. That sound alone brings back memories for a lot of older farmers: early mornings helping their fathers, long days in wheat stubble or corn stalks, and evenings when the sun dipped low but the job wasn't quite finished yet. What made the 44 stand out wasn't just its voice, it was its raw pulling power. This tractor could dig deep when the soil demanded it. Farmers used it for everything: heavy plowing, dragging discs, feeding silage wagons, or even pulling self-propelled combines in the early years. Whatever needed doing, the 44 stepped up without hesitation. It was the kind of tractor you could trust for the hard jobs, the ones that tested both man and machine. And in the post-war era, that kind of reliability mattered more than ever. Families were expanding their acreage, trying new crops, and pushing toward a better future. The 44 carried the spirit of that time, the spirit of doing more with what you had. It didn't need fancy extras or modern comforts. What it offered was capability, durability, and a sense of hope. When a farmer parked a 44 in the barn, it meant the farm was growing, the family was building something, and the next season might just be better than the last. For many owners, the 44 came to represent determination. It was a tractor for people who didn't have much money to spare but had plenty of hard work in them. And even now, decades later, a well-kept 44 still turns heads, not because it's flashy, but because people know exactly what it accomplished. The Massey-Harris 44 was a machine that didn't back down. It earned its place in history and in the memories of farmers across generations. But the tractors of the mid-60s changed everything, and number 3 became a bestseller for a reason. In third place, the Ford 3000. In third place, we move into the mid-1960s, a time when small farms across America were shifting into a new era of convenience and reliability, and no tractor helped make that transition smoother than the Ford 3000. This wasn't just a machine you bought because you needed horsepower, it was a practical, everyday partner that fit perfectly into the rhythm of family farming. The Ford 3000 became one of Ford's most successful utility tractors, and it's easy to understand why. It started easily. Even on chilly mornings when the frost clung to fence posts, it ran with a steady confidence, strong enough for serious work yet gentle enough to handle the day-to-day chores without burning extra fuel. For many small farms trying to stretch every gallon and every dollar, that balance made the 3000 a smart, almost obvious choice. Farmers loved how it felt, too. The steering was light, the controls were simple, and it handled like a tractor that wanted to work with you, not against you. For older farmers who didn't want to wrestle a bigger machine, and for younger ones learning their way around the fields, the 3000 was forgiving and friendly. It didn't intimidate, it invited you to climb on and get things done. One of the biggest reasons the 3000 has stayed useful for so long is its compatibility with the standard 3-point hitch system that became the norm across the industry. That meant you could hook up almost anything: plows, mowers, tillers, post-hole diggers, and the tractor handled them with no fuss. Even today, decades later, countless Ford 3000s are still out there working because they fit so easily into the modern world of farm implements. For many folks, though, the memories are what make the 3000 special. This was the tractor you used to mow the backfield on a hot July afternoon, the one you hitched to a wagon full of hay bales while your father stacked them in the sun, the one that tilled the garden every spring, year after year. So many childhood summers were spent riding along on the fender of a Ford 3000, feeling the hum of the engine and watching the dust trail behind the tires. It wasn't the biggest or the fanciest tractor Ford ever built, but it might be the one that touched the most lives. The 3000 helped small farms stay productive, stay modern, and stay efficient without losing the simple, honest spirit of family farming. But before all the modern conveniences, number 2 carried American farms through some of the hardest decades in history. In second place, the Farmall M. In second place, we reach one of the true giants of American farm history, not just in size or power, but in the role it played during some of this country's hardest decades. The Farmall M wasn't just another tractor on the market, it became a lifeline for thousands of families as America climbed out of the Great Depression and stepped straight into the challenges of World War II. If there was ever a machine that embodied grit, endurance, and the quiet determination of rural life, this was it. The Farmall M was built tough enough to handle long seasons, tough soil, and tough times. It delivered real horsepower at a moment when farms desperately needed to produce more with less, and because it was dependable, farmers knew they could count on it from the first light of spring planting to the final days of fall harvest. That strength, that consistency, is what earned the M its legendary status. What made the M even more remarkable was how easy it was to maintain. A basic toolbox, a little know-how, and an afternoon in the barn were usually enough to keep it running strong. Parts were simple, available, and built to last. That's why so many Farmall MS are still out there today, 70 or even 80 years after they first rolled off the line, still working, still earning their keep, still proving that good engineering never goes out of style. The M wasn't picky about the job, either, whether it was deep plowing in heavy soil, cultivating rows of corn, powering belt-driven machinery, or pulling a loaded wagon across a rough field. The Farmall M stepped into every task like it had been built for that one purpose. For countless families, it became the backbone of the operation, the machine that kept the farm moving forward year after year. And then there are the memories, the personal moments attached to this tractor. For many older farmers, hearing a Farmall M rumble at idle is like hearing a chapter of their life being read aloud again. That slow, steady putter wasn't just noise, it was the soundtrack of childhood chores, of summers spent working side by side with parents and siblings, of long evenings when the field dust settled and the day finally came to an end. The Farmall M is more than steel and horsepower, it's a symbol of American resilience, a reminder of how farmers weathered storms, adapted, survived, and built something lasting through sheer hard work. But if the Farmall M represents American toughness, number 1 is the tractor that taught a whole generation what farming could be. And number 1, the John Deere Model A. We come to a tractor that isn't just a classic, it's an icon woven into the identity of American farming. the John Deere Model A is one of the most beloved tractors ever built, and for good reason. From the rolling hills of Pennsylvania to the wide-open plains of Kansas, the Model A showed up everywhere. It became the green heartbeat of small farms across nearly every state, helping families grow food, raise livestock, and build their lives one season at a time. The most unforgettable thing about the Model A is its sound. That famous two-cylinder rhythm, the steady putt-putt-putt, is instantly recognizable. You could close your eyes and know exactly what was coming down the lane. For many folks, that sound meant Dad was heading out for chores, or Grandpa was tilling the garden for another year of sweet corn. It wasn't just noise, it was comfort, routine, and the reassuring voice of a machine that simply never gave up. The beauty of the Model A was in its balance. It was strong enough to take on the heavy jobs, plowing tough soil, pulling equipment up hills, running all day without complaint, yet it was light and nimble enough to fit the needs of smaller farms, weaving between outbuildings, orchards, or narrow rows. It didn't overpower the operator or overwhelm the land, it worked with the farmer, which is why so many people still think of it as a true partner, not just a tool. Over the decades, the Model A became part of everyday life. It hauled wagons during harvest, pulled cultivators through rows of beans, and clipped the grass out back when the weeds got too tall. It stood in the yard during family photos, sat outside the barn on warm evenings, and waited patiently during winter for spring to come around again. The Model A didn't just help run the farm, it helped shape the memories of the people who lived there. What really sets the Model A apart, though, is what it represents. It's a symbol of an America built through work, honest, physical, sun-up to sundown work. It's a reminder of the golden era of agriculture, when families relied on each other, the seasons ruled the calendar, and a good tractor could mean the difference between getting by and moving forward. The Model A captured that spirit and carried it for nearly 2 decades. Today, when someone rolls open the barn door and finds a Model A sitting quietly under a layer of dust, there's a feeling that comes with it, a sense that the past isn't gone, just waiting to be awakened. And maybe, somewhere out there, your family farm still has one sitting in a barn, waiting for the engine to roar again. These 7 tractors remind us that farming was never just about machines, it was about families, seasons, and the long days that shaped who we became. If you grew up around any of these classics, or if your farm still has one tucked away in a shed, I'd love to hear your stories. Drop a comment and share which tractor meant the most to you. And if you enjoyed this trip back through America's small farm history, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us for more journeys down the old farm roads.